Good evening, folks. Sam Whitfield here, broadcasting live from Next Gen Conservative Studios via Spreaker and the Junior Factor Nation radio network. And once again, I apologize for being a little bit late. Four. It's only 4:30, and we were downtown and we got stuck in traffic. Never fun. But nevertheless, I'm here for the next hour and a half. So, and I'm glad to have you all here. We already have Eric in the chat room. Hello, Eric. I know that uh, I know that Michael and Andrew will be here shortly. So, looking forward to seeing them in the chat room as well. So, Eric, you'll have company. And so anyway, lots to do today, folks. Lots to talk about. The first topic is Gender Bender Day, which we're going to cover here. Now, I wanted to talk about this yesterday, but I didn't get around to it. And it's a very interesting topic, I think. Transgenderism creeps me out. I'm sorry, but it just does. And what they're starting to do in public schools now absolutely disturbs the hell out of me. Um, so we'll cover that in just a second. Also, on today's program, we're going to be talking about how some conservatives, it was revealed that Verizon Wireless apparently has been giving the phone records of their customers to the Department of Homeland Security, and it made all sorts of headlines over this past week. I'm not really sure why this is big headline news, because we've seen this before. Uh, Not that I like Obama or anything, but this is a George W. Bush thing, and this was a result of the Patriot Act, and I actually have an opinion on this, which some of you may disagree with. Um, but I'll cover that a little later on the program. Real quick before we get into some audio here, though, I do want to make a quick announcement, which I didn't get to make yesterday because we just got so swamped with the Occupy Wall Street audio sound bites from yesterday's show. I didn't have a chance to announce this. But on next Saturday's program, I will be having a guest. Mike Garkar will be joining me, and he's a 21-year-old conservative from Ohio who's started a conservative activism group in his college, and and it's been really successful, and he wants to promote it on my show. I believe I have to check with Jason on this, but I believe he's also coming on Jason's show this coming Thursday. So you'll hear him first on Jason's show this coming Thursday, and then you'll hear him on my show on Saturday. Both interviews should be pretty good. I've had a chance to talk with Mike Garkar. He's a very nice guy. Um, and I guess he's listened to the Whitfield analysis a little bit, and he's a fan of the program, which I'm very humbled about. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to having a guest next week, and it should be a good show. So make sure you're all here next Saturday for that. He'll be joining me for the first half hour of the program. All right, so, folks. So as I said, Gender Bender Day. Now this was a headline from about a week ago, um, but it's still current enough to where I feel I can cover it. Um, this just shows how disturbing the public school system is getting, and I'm honestly amazed I survived the public school system because with all the crap that's in our society now, the schools aren't really helping with any of this either. By the way, in fact, they're making it worse by promoting some of this stuff. Um, but anyway, so this clip is from the Jimmy Z show on the Gender Bender Day out in Milwaukee. And Jimmy has a great commentary on this from about a week ago. So go and look on his show, thejimmyzshow.com. He's also the guy who does the show music and the show bumpers, or most of them anyway, for this program. Um, and he's a great friend of mine. And he's spot on about this as well. And you'll hear what I mean. So anyway, let's take a look at this clip. It runs about 7 minutes long. So let's listen to this, and then I'll be back with my audio commentary to break it down. So let's take a listen, huh? This is Jimmy Z last week on the gender bender issue. By the way, if any of you guys are watching NGC TV, I really should put the link in here to my webcam feed because I do a live webcam feed of the show too, kind of like Rush Limbaugh. During that whole song, I pretty much think I probably embarrassed myself because I was doing like the head bobbing neck thing, and even though you can't hear the audio, I just looked at myself and started cracking up during that. Uh, I wish Jimmy would put up the full version of that parody on his YouTube channel. Um, oh, and Eric, we have a classic rock segment of the show coming up later on today because believe it or not, if we get all the stuff covered, I would like to talk a little bit about music and other stuff too. Because it's Sunday and I'm a rock and roll fan, and I particularly don't feel like talking completely about politics for the entire show. So yeah, I know that you and Andrew will enjoy that. On the subject of this gender bender day thing, though, I'm all for promoting tolerance of gay people and those are trans, uh, who are transvestites. I'm all for promoting the tolerance of them. How understand that the tolerance part is the key word. However, this is the wrong way to do it. And um these teachers who say the that the transgender thing, that the dressing in opposite has nothing to do with sex whatsoever. Does anybody really believe that? I don't. Because here's what they've done in public school. And this is not just with transgenderism, but this is with homosexuality, this is with liberalism. They get these kids involved like super young with stuff like transgender day, and then they say, "Oh, well, it has nothing to do with sex." And I mean, kids know that dressing up as the opposite sex is silly. Quite honest, and I know it's voluntary, but I mean, the other part of the clip that really kind of creeped me out is that the teachers were doing this. And I got chills down my spine when I heard that because a lot of this cross-dressing bull crap and the genderism, it relates to child pedophilia too. lots of the adult sickos who like to cross dress also like to prey on children. I mean, lots of sex offenders do have who prey on children do have weird sexual fetishes like this. And again, I'm all for promoting tolerance, but I'm also for promoting caution. And I think the idea of asking first and second graders to dress up, or screw that, I think the idea of, asking children and teens or anybody to dress up as the opposite sex as a group is a little far fetched. And I think it's absurd. And I know that the transgenderism stuff makes some kids uncomfortable too. Like I just have to go on a personal story here. Like I do have a personal grudge against transvestites. Well, not a grudge, but personally, I do have a problem with them because I had this I had this kid who was, I'll never forget it. During my freshman year of high school, and again, we're going back 4 years or 3.5 years now. Um, since I'm graduated from high school now. There was I remember eighth period, the last class of the day. It actually wasn't a class, but eighth period, I used to be like a teacher assist for one of the deans, and it was just like for some extra. It was just to get like a credit hour, and what I would do is I would run papers and notes back and forth for the dean. And if there were any notes, when there were any notes coming in, I'd work on homework or at least get it started before I headed home. And um, I remember there was this one kid who, at the time, was I think a junior or a senior. So again, I'm a freshman and he's like a junior or a senior. And this kid, like the first like 4 or 5 weeks, this kid like the first 2 or 3 weeks, um, he comes in and I could tell that he was gay, and it was fairly obvious that he was gay, and that I didn't have that I really didn't have a problem with. We said hello and you know kind of kept to ourselves and whatnot. But then about like 4 weeks into school or something after that, then he came in one day and he was he was like in one of those like he grew his hair out super long and he had earrings on and he was wearing like a sundress that most of the like lots of girls in high school wear. And he had he had like one of those Victoria's Secret handbags, or he had like this couture hairspray which smelled like bubblegum, and it was really god awful smelling. I even know girls who got, I knew actual girls who were disgusted by, that type of bubblegum hairspray. And it would make like really off the, he would make like really off the mark remarks about like, God, everyone is so judgmental around here. And, you know, when he would come, and then the really disturbing thing, for me at least, was he like made some comment to me about how I was good looking, and this wasn't just like another guy saying, "Hey dude, you look awesome. You're going to go out, and get some chicks today for sure." This was like this guy was hitting on me legitimately. And like the first couple times I'm like, I'm flattered, you think I'm attractive, but I'm interested in someone else right now. And he kept he kept he kind of kept hitting on me. And what I ended up doing was, before he came in, because he always came in like 5 minutes late to the class, I would literally come in, get my crap, of the envelopes or whatever, and I would run around and get my stuff done. But then I would also kind of loiter in the hallways a little bit until I knew that he was, making his rounds. And then I would come back. And so one day I did, one day, we were both in there, and he made like some angry remark to me. He's like, he's like, and I wasn't saying anything, but he's like, you don't have to be like one of those judgmental assholes and ignore me. And when I say asshole, I'm cleaning up the language he used. And I just turned to him and I said, "I'm sorry, but I feel really uncomfortable with the way you're presenting yourself. I don't appreciate, how you're making me feel super uncomfortable, buddy. It's not that I hate you, but this whole dressing like a girl thing isn't quite doing it for me. It's kind of creeping out, to be quite honest." And um, I mean, I could tell he was heating up, and I mean, if I wasn't in a wheelchair, he would have probably tried beating the crap out of me. Or at one point, I thought he was going to try to beat the crap out of me, which was which would have been amusing, because even though I'm in a wheelchair, I have pretty good upper body strength. And I've given a couple guys like bruises and what's not. I mean, I'm not like a super tough guy, but I can hold my own if I'm attacked. Um, or if I'm roughhousing with my friends or whatever. Um, but I mean, that's kind of my whole thing is, I don't I don't mind transvestites and I don't mind homosexuals. But a lot of them, at least that I've encountered, they go around and, again, I have gay friends, and my gay friends don't do this necessarily. But there are people out there who I've encountered who, are gay or they're transgendered. And they'll go around flaunting their transgenderism. And then, they'll flaunt it, and they'll go up to like completely straight guys and hit on them. And when the straight guy, says no thank you, or tries to politely turn him down, they'll just go berserker, and then it becomes something like where the transgendered guys are like, you buddy, and why are you such an intolerant mother? And it becomes ridiculous, like, ladies and gentlemen. And this whole transgender isn't it's not about tolerance at all for the transgenderism community. It's not about tolerance. A lot of these homosexual and transgendered activists are not so much about tolerance, but rather they want to force their idea of sexuality on the rest of us. And if we're uncomfortable with it, then we're mother homophobes, and we're hateful. And I mean, that's why they have lots of these transgenderism things now in school, and the days of silence and whatnot, and it all drives me insane. And I hate to go on a rant about this, but it's true. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And let me tell you something too. Like, I have, like, all of my friends who are gay. Like, I know they're gay, and they know I'm straight, but they respect the fact that I'm straight. And like, even a lot of them have told me, I really feel sorry. Um, I said that they've said to me, I'm gay, and yet I don't like these guys or gals who try and force their sexual views on you. I said they've said I don't think it's right that straight people force their views on gays, and I don't think it's right that gay people try to force their views on homosexuality or transgenderism. And I agree. Anyway, that's enough on that rant. We're gonna take a quick commercial break here, folks, and when we get back, I we're gonna talk a little bit about this whole Verizon Wireless thing, what happened with that, and the Patriot Act, and all these technology companies, because really, when it comes to the actual like communication companies themselves, I think a lot of conservatives, who mostly they're not conservative, mostly they're actually 9/11 truther, you know, BS, BSers, and they think these these like these companies like Facebook, are in cahoots with Obama to sell our information, but that's not necessarily true, and I'll explain why when we get back from the break. Anyway, you're listening to the Whitfield Analysis on Next Gen Conservative Radio. We'll be right back after these messages. Hang on, folks. Welcome back to the program, folks. Real quick, before Eric and Andrew get into their debate, Eric or Andrew, pop quiz. What what song intro was that I just played, and who was it by? Eric is a big rock and roll fan, so Eric, I expect you to know this. Uh, okay. Eric, I don't know. No. Wow. Um, well, that's okay, Eric. I know you'll get a couple of them later. I know that everything will be in perfect synchronicity later on. um, oh, but anyway, that bumper was by Van Halen. It's one called uh it's it's a song called Dirty Movies by Van Halen. It's off their 1981 album called Fair Warning. Um, Now, Fair Warning, just to get on a music rant here real quick, it was like the third album by Van Halen, I think. Came out in 1981. And it wasn't one of their popular albums. Like it wasn't like 1984. It was actually their lowest. It was actually their worst selling album in terms of commercial sales. But in my opinion, it was actually their best. So go and check that out on iTunes if you haven't already. Anyway, though, folks, so now um, we have a couple other different topics to cover, and one of them that I want to cover is this whole FISA thing that made headline news a couple days ago. Now, for those of you who didn't hear about this, apparently it was revealed. I don't know who originally broke the story. Um, it was revealed that Verizon Wireless apparently has been giving information about their customers' phone calls and other communication to the government. And there's this big freak out by some conservatives that Obama is spying on and it's to attack conservatives. And let me be the first to say that it's actually not an Obama initiative. It's actually a George W. Bush initiative, and this is part of the Patriot Act, ladies and gentlemen. And I have very mixed emotions on the Patriot Act, but I have a story here um, that I actually lied aloud in. One of our news show hosts here on the Junior Factor Nation Radio Network posted on her wall, and during the commercial break, I went and found it. So, anyway, so this story comes from Newsmax.com, and the headline is 9 internet firms giving data to government. That's the headline. And I'm reading this now, so I'm not really paying attention to the chat right now. So anyway, it's not just your cell phone calls. 9 internet companies have been giving your emails, videos, photos, and more to the NSA and FBI, the Washington Post reports. The classified program PRISM began in 2007 and has signed on Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, Paltalk, AOL, Skype, YouTube, and Apple. Which YouTube is part of Google, so I don't know really why they included YouTube as a separate category, but anyway. Cloud storage website Dropbox is set to join soon. Prism has become the biggest contributor to President Barack Obama's daily brief, the Post reports, with a total of 1,447 articles in 2012. 1 in 7 intelligence reports are based on PRISM data. This program descends from a program in the 1970s in which 100 American companies worked with the government. Though PRISM is more like the controversial warrantless surveillance efforts undertaken after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. PRISM attempts to use formulas to avoid gathering data from Americans, but the system isn't perfect. And while compliance by the companies is voluntary, the Foreign Surveillance Intelligence Court can force compliance. Apple resisted participation for 5 years, and Twitter has never joined. The Post said it obtained information on the program from a career intelligence officer who believes the program is a serious invasion of privacy. Quote, they quite literally can watch your ideas form as you type, the officer told the Post. Reuters reports that both Apple and Facebook deny knowing anything about the PRISM program and say they do not allow any government agency direct access to their servers. Which is true, for Apple at least, and I'll explain that in a moment. Alright, folks, anyway, I'm back in the chat room again, so, honestly, and I have an audio clip about this too, from President Obama, which I'm not sure, should I play it now, or, no, I'll do my, commentary on the news piece first, and then I'll play the audio, clip. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I honestly have mixed emotions on the PRISM program. Because on one hand, I don't necessarily like the idea of the government, having records of what I do with my iPhone or with my iPad or, with any of my emails or anything, but at the same time, I understand why the program is in effect. And ladies and gentlemen, this is truly one of those slippery slope areas where I believe there are pros and cons to both scenarios. And let's start with the cons first of all, because usually people do the pros and then they do the cons. But in this case, I'm going to start with the cons first. One of the biggest cons is that the government has access to our information, and the big conspiracy theorist fear behind this, which is actually somewhat understandable, is that the government is going to use this to abuse the system and, arrest innocent Americans, most of whom are conservative. That's the big worry out there. Um, and like I said, I understand the concerns about a major breach of security. And it's possible, but I don't live in fear of that. This and let me ask another question about this. How many news stories have come out so far about innocent Americans being arrested because of this? How many stories have come out about this, folks? Seriously. I understand the fear is there. And it's a fear that I think all of us have on both sides of the fence, but how many innocent Americans have you heard being arrested about this? None so far in my book. And I'm going to close the chat window now because Andrew and Eric are talking about Spock and all that stuff, and Michael just commented with random stuff. All yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, and I'll open the chat room up in a couple minutes. But as I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, it's one of the slippery slope things. And honestly, like there's the potential for the abuse of power, but again, how many stories of innocent Americans have we heard getting arrested from this? None, as far as I can tell. And if there were, I mean, I think that it would be like a big story. There would be a big story coming out about this. Um, I mean, just look at what happened with the IRS. They did breach security when they weren't supposed to, and they tried covering up. And look at what has happened with them. Both sides of the media, or I should say, the majority of both sides of the media, are pissed off at them. Rightly so, too. So, I mean, the government really can't keep any of their bull when it comes to this stuff secret. They just can't. Um, Now, there are some pros to this surveillance program, which are obviously there's the question of, well, if we didn't have this program, how many more terrorist attacks would happen? And I do think it's a valid point to bring up because there have been instances reported where apparently terrorist cells were planning on committing another 9/11, and they were able to stop these patterns based on tracking the terrorist cell information, and the terrorist cell communications. And my guess, ladies and gentlemen, is that there are far more terrorist attacks that have been prevented from this than there have been rights breached. Excuse me. Started there for a sec. If we didn't have this program, would these terrorist attacks that were prevented would they have occurred? Now, obviously, we can't answer that question for certain, but my guess is that yes, there probably were some terrorist attacks that we haven't even heard about that were prevented because of this. And so, overall, you want to know my opinion on this, on the whole Patriot thing? Yeah, it's not perfect. The surveillance part isn't perfect. I'd like to see it repealed, and then I'd like to see them come up with a whole new thing. I would like to see it, repealed and reconstructed, because I do believe that it was one of the things that was kind of passed through in a hurry without everyone looking at it. And so I think it needs to be torn down and rebuilt. But I don't think it's the worst thing to ever happen here in America either. Now, here is one part of the story that really irritates the hell out of me. Is I see all of these conservatives um and yes, Eric, I know I can say shit. There, I just said it. Anyway, as I was saying, the the um the thing that really irritates me is the fact that some of these truthers are freaking out about companies like Google and Yahoo and Facebook and whatnot. And they're saying, oh, these companies are in cahoots with Obama and they're completely spying, and Apple doesn't care about your privacy, neither does Google, neither does Yahoo. All of these big computer corporations are evil and they ought to be stopped. They're evil. And them. I mean, that's the mantra from some of the 9/11 truther folks regarding Google and Yahoo and whatnot. And let me tell you the story. I believe that there are some corporations that are in the take for Obama and who I don't trust with my information. And now, before I go on to this list, let me give you some background, ladies and gentlemen. So, yes, I'll admit it, I am a techie, or I'm a computer nerd. I love technology. I've always loved technology ever since I was born. I love computers. I love my iPhone. And I just love the internet and technology. And I even know some basic iPhone coding, in fact, which is something I need to talk to Jason about actually regarding a Junior Factor Nation app. Hint, hint. Um, and I've done a fair amount of research on these companies and their privacy firms. So let me now give you the Whitfield analysis list of companies that you can trust with your privacy and the ones that you can't, and I'll briefly run through one on the list. All right. So first of all, here's the thing. These corporations are not necessarily inherently evil because they're giving your information to the government. I mean, a lot of these companies have initially resisted. But see, folks, here's the thing. They've been forced into it. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. These companies have been pretty much essentially forced into this program. I don't think it's that these companies. I don't think all these companies necessarily want to screw over their companies, but here's the thing. And a lot of this stuff did actually start happening when Obama was president. So again, I'm not defending him, but like here's the thing. Janet Napolitano, that evil bitch from Homeland Security, uh, she is an unscrupulous woman. And so for a lot of these companies like Facebook and Apple, I'm thinking of these two in particular because both Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs, when he was alive at least, have publicly stated at one time or another, and keep in mind this gets no news press, because lots of the news outlets are totally in the tank for Obama. So yes, I am defending my fellow nerds to some extent. A lot of these companies don't like the fact that they have to give data to the government. But Janet Napolitano has basically said, we're going to make your life hell if you don't. Sure, they don't have to participate, but, the government is going to come in and make life hell for them, and, they're going to keep harassing Zuckerberg, and, I mean, lots of people think that he's evil, but lots of the same people who think he's evil are also the people who are 45 years old and jealous of him because he started a successful kick-ass company, and meanwhile they're still stuck at home in their mom's basement at 45 years old eating Doritos. And also keep in mind that lots of the Facebook criticizers
Sam, are you finished?
I'm not, Grandma.
You're not finished.
Hang on a sec, wait. No, and I won't be for a while. So anyway, I'm back. As I was saying, a lot of these companies, um, as I was saying, a lot of these companies aren't necessarily in the tank for Obama, but um, um, a lot of these companies are not so much in the tank for Obama, but they're forced into this. And like about Apple, real quick, because I admittedly here's why I know Apple is in the tank. All right, my mother actually works for the Apple store. She works at the local Apple store, and so that's partially why I have the iPhone and the iPad and my MacBook, and I'm all Appled out. So I'm one of those Apple fanboys. And one of the things is I've read about Apple is Steve, yes, he was a liberal, or so he says he is, but actually, I believe he was more libertarian. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Jobs did believe in protecting people's privacy. And Jobs was against the Patriot Act. He said that he would protect his customers' data, and he did. Right up until the end. Now, see, here's the interesting thing about Steve Jobs, too. Initially, he was an Obama supporter, as were many tech giants the first go round. I mean, he was a liberal, but here's one thing I know for certain. There were, after the first election, I guess Steve Jobs got invited to the White House by Obama. Um, and he and the president were talking, and basically the story goes that Steve Jobs, being the entrepreneur he wanted to see, like I said, Steve Jobs I think was more libertarian than he actually was liberal. But I guess Steve Jobs wanted to bring the manufacturer. He wanted to bring the manufacturing of Apple products back to the United States. He wanted to open up power plants in California and he wanted to produce the products here in our own backyard. He wanted to bring them back to the U.S., which I think is admirable. But Obama, when he believed that to Obama, Obama gave him like some BS excuse that well, lots of the factories that you would need to build they violate environmental regulation, and see, that's why so many of these products are manufactured in China now, ladies and gentlemen. It's not that these companies want to manufacture computers in China or in Malaysia. It's that the EPA, the liberal leftist EPA, is so gotta get the bleeper out here again. The EPA is so corrupt that instead of these companies being able to produce their products here in the US, they have to go to China because Obama and the freaking government can't see. They don't see how producing computers here would A, save us money, and B, give us a monopoly back. And so the story goes that Steve Jobs got angry with Obama about that, and he and Obama got into a fight about that. And reportedly Steve Jobs kicked Obama's ass in the argument too. The next thing that Obama and Jobs talked about was the education system. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't find an audio segment that's short enough, but let me paraphrase. So, back in 1993, Steve Jobs had his own company because remember he got fired from Apple in 1985 after his board kicked him off. So he went and started a company called Next like in 86, 87. So up until like 2000 he had his own company Next, and one of the things that he was interviewed about was the impact of computers and the education system. And to paraphrase, Steve Jobs has always been against teachers' unions because he said the teachers' unions are only used to politicize stuff, and they make things political, and they basically disrupt the education system. So Jobs was basically against teachers unions, and I'll post a link to the video on the JFN page or on the Analyzer page for all of you to see it. But basically, he was anti-foreign production. He was anti-teachers union, and he told Obama also that he was really unsure about the PRISM program. And for a number of years, Jobs kept the Apple data centers protected, and told the government to basically go themselves, and that they didn't need to know, what people were buying off of iTunes or in the iCloud center. Now, since then, they've basically been forced into the program like everyone else has. But let me give you a great tip. And Andrew also knows about this. But if you have an iOS device, any of the iOS devices, or a Mac, or both in my case, there is a way to create an email account with iCloud.com. And it's free to create one, but you have to have like an iOS device with, like an iPhone 4 up, or an iPad or up, or a MacBook, running like the latest software. The iCloud email address is free, and it's Apple's private services. There are no ads, so you essentially buy the ability to create like email accounts with Apple for free. I mean, you buy the product, but it's a free service that iCloud provides. And iCloud, I use it for my personal email purposes and for the show, and I love it because they do keep the servers pretty secure, and they don't sell your info, and I've always really appreciated that. And I know Andrew, being a fellow Apple user, uses his iCloud email all the time. Um, well, yeah, I mean, Andrew, I know you use iCloud for professional use, but I mean, buddy, you can create multiple email accounts. I mean, I have one for the show, I have one for my personal use too. The only thing I use Gmail for is to send my newsletters and whatnot because I really don't care who sees those. But Gmail and Google is actually evil. Google completely sold out to the Obama administration, and they've been selling you privacy for years. And honestly, I use Google and I use Gmail, so technically I'm feeding the beast. But honestly, someone needs to go in and give Eric Schmidt and Sergey Brin a good talking to. So basically, my point is trust Apple because even though they have to give info, they're doing all they can to protect their data. Um, now Facebook, um, the interesting thing with Facebook is they were one of the companies where I guess, according to what I've heard, Jen Napolitano personally forced Zuckerberg into letting her see the data programs. And I mean, Zuckerberg's a liberal, but see, I think a lot of these tech guys after this go around are going to become conservative. I pray to God they do. Because the government is just Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't really like having to give away his personal data centers, and neither does Apple. Now, since Jobs is dead, I'm not sure how Tim Cook feels about it. But so that's basically my rundown on the technical scheme of things, and we are going to go to one commercial break. But when we get back, I have an audio clip um, about Obama on the Patriot Act, and this is pretty incredible. Um, but anyway, we'll be right back after commercial break. I'll play the clip from Obama, analyze it, and then we'll move on to one other thing about the soldier who got in trouble for supporting conservative beliefs. Have you heard about this? This is incredible. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on Next Gen Conservative Radio. Be right back. Be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
dinner, and your shirt should have been over half an hour ago.
What? Eric. Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I had the mute button held down there for a sec. Anyway, I'm back now. Sam Whitfield. And Eric, you guessed it. I played that just for you. To my friend. Anyway, well, let me play this article on. I mean, not the article, but let me play this audio clip from Obama on uh the the wiretapping and the FISA thing. This is fairly interesting. So now let me explain this clip. This clip I found on Jimmy Z's YouTube channel, and Jimmy starts the clip where Obama is talking about the Patriot Act in 2008 when he is running for president and whatnot, and he goes into this whole lecture about how bad it is, and then it fast forwards to 2013 when he is actually president, and now he's changed his views on the Patriot Act. Let's take a listen real quick, shall we? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's going to fast forward, and now here's what he said earlier this week about the Patriot Act. I mean, he was totally playing people, he was totally lying to people then, and he's lying to people now about the Patriot Act. So let me resume this clip and let's listen. Alright, so that's Obama then and now. Um, he was totally playing people off. You know, I care about the Constitution, and yet he's expanded the programs, and now, I mean, that was a classic case of a politician doing whatever was necessary to get into office. So, anyway, and by the way, quick side note in the chat because we're talking music here in the chat while I'm playing the audio sound bites. By the way, Eric, The Who is like my number one favorite band, with Led Zeppelin coming in second, and The Police coming in third, and U2 coming in at fourth. Um, so that's the order of the bands. Synchronicity, however, is just such a genius album because you can't tell that it's an 80s album. I mean, it could have very well come out in 2013 and no one would have been able to tell it different. Anyway, though, it's just a brilliant album. That's all I've got to say. All right, and so that's Obama's view on the Patriot Act. I think we all know that that was just him being a classic politician, um, and whatnot. The one thing I do like about Obama, though, the only thing that he and I agree on is that Led Zeppelin is an awesome band. That's about the only thing we agree on. Other than that, I really don't like him as president. Ahem. Anyway, though, so now I have a story, which my good friend Andrew, are you still in the chat? Sent this to me. Well, while I was doing show prep earlier tonight, and the headline this headline. Some of you have heard about this. This comes from Fox News, and this story is freaking unbelievable. Andrew told me about this last night, and I just could not believe it. Headline: Soldier told not to read Levin, Limbaugh, or Hannity in uniform. And this is by Todd Starnes, who also writes for National Review, it should be noted. A veteran member of the U.S. Army Band said he is facing retribution and punishment from the military for having anti-Obama bumper stickers on his car, reading books written by conservative authors like Mark Levin and David Limbaugh, and serving Chick-fil-A sandwiches at his promotion party. Master Sergeant Nathan Somers, a 25-year Army veteran and conservative Christian based at Fort Myer in Washington, believes his outspoken opposition to gay marriage prompted the higher-ups to take a closer look at his beliefs. The recipient of an Army Commendation Medal and a soloist at the funeral of former First Lady Betty Ford, Somers said his core beliefs are enough to mark a soldier for persecution in today's military. Quote, it seems like with the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that the Christians have been the ones who have had to go underground and in the closet for fear of retaliation and reprisals, Somers told Fox News. Yeah, no kidding, folks. Christians feel that they can't be forthright with their faith. They have to hide. Retired Navy Commander John Bennett Wells is representing the Master Sergeant. He said there is no doubt in his mind that the U.S. military is discriminating against Christians, and specifically his client. There's no question about it, Wells told Fox News. Because he is religious, because he feels that homosexual conduct is wrong for religious reasons, he is basically persecuted. Lieutenant Colonel Justin Platt, an Army spokesperson at the Pentagon, released a statement to Fox News noting that the military branch cannot commit an ongoing investigation or administrative actions. With respect to the political activities, soldiers are expected to carry out their obligations as citizens in accordance with applicable regulations, Platt said. Army documents obtained by Fox News indicate Summers was told that his accusations bordered on being disrespectful to President Obama and the quote-unquote slightest interference of disrespect toward superiors can have a demoralizing effect on the unit. You should strive to express your opinion while being aware of the overall ramifications of your statements, the Army noted. Summers' troubles began last April when he was told to remove pro-Republican anti-Obama stickers that were on his privately owned car. The stickers read, "Political dissent is not racism, no Obama, nope 2012, and the road to bankruptcy is paved with asphalt." That sticker included the image of a donkey. That was actually my favorite bumper sticker during the election. Anyway, his superior officers told the soldier that the bumper stickers were creating unnecessary workplace tension. The types of stickers on your car were creating an atmosphere detrimental to morale and were creating unnecessary workplace tension, the officer wrote in an Army document obtained by Fox News. A soldier must balance their personal feelings with the mission of the U.S. Army. Even the slightest interference of disrespect towards superiors can have a demoralizing effects on the unit. Good God, Andrew, this is a long article you sent me. Attorney Wells said once he got involved, the military backed off of filing a formal reprimand. He's allowed to have those bumper stickers on his car, he said. The DoD regulation allows it. There was nothing obscene about it. During the summer months, Summers came under fire for reading the works of Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, and David Limbaugh. Summers was reading Limbaugh's A Great Destroyer backstage at a U.S. Army Band concert at the U.S. Capitol. A superior officer told him he was causing unit disruption and was offending other soldiers. What the hell is going on, folks, with this country? I wasn't reading aloud, he said. I was just privately reading to myself. I was told that they were frowning on and they warned me because I should not be reading literature like this backstage because it was offensive. In another episode, he had been caught backstage reading a copy of Mark Levin's Ameritopia. Summers said he was told to refrain from reading the book while in uniform or within the sight of anyone from the band. This is the first time since my superior officer indicated that I had to offend others with my choice of reading material, that I was officially counseled about it, he said. The statement took my breath away. I was speechless. In spite of those incidents, the Army promoted the soldier in September to the rank of Master Sergeant. But the promotion would also mark the launch of an effort by the military to punish the soldier. His promotion coincided with a controversy surrounding Chick-fil-A. The company's president told a reporter that he was guilty as charged when it came to supporting traditional marriage. Alright, so that basically talks about the Chick-fil-A. I'm going to skim through. Alright, so next paragraph after. Alright, so basically, folks, this. Okay, this is a really long freaking article. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't read. I'll post a full article, but basically, I think you get the point of. I think you get the point of this, folks. This soldier is being persecuted for being a conservative. Um, it's obvious that he was persecuted as being conservative, and this is freaking unbelievable to me. And again, not to bring up the gay thing again, but again, this all comes back to my point earlier in the program, folks. How many freaking times have we been told that we need to be more tolerant of gay people? And again, like I said, I'm all for promoting tolerance when it's acceptable. But being tolerant of gays and liberals also means that liberals need to be tolerant of us, which they're not. And the US Army is punishing. Okay, let me just say this. The bumper stickers and the books, those were his personal activities. They weren't affecting his duty. He was doing those on his own time, or while waiting for the army band to get warmed up backstage where no one in public could see him. He wasn't flaunting his conservative beliefs. He was just expressing them in his own private way. See, and this, Eric, this is the problem I have with some of these gay rights activists. You know, they want to demonstrate their rights, which I have no problem with. They want to demonstrate their views on their sexual beliefs and their values, which again I have no problem with. But then when it comes to conservatives, they get all offended and say that um, it's causing a hostile environment and whatnot. And I don't see how any of this guy's actions were causing a disruption. I really don't. So anyway, it's just freaking absurd. Um, I find it uh, I find it disgusting. I find it irreprehensible, and this guy should not be punished. And that's all I'm going to say on the subject. That's all that needs to be said on the subject, I believe. So anyway, folks, that pretty much sums up tonight. That pretty much sums up the program for tonight. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning into the program, and thank you for supporting the show. And don't forget, next week we have a guest, Mike Garcar will join me next week. So tune in for that episode next Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And it should be a pretty good show, folks. It's going to be a good one, I guarantee you. So until then, folks, take care. God bless. God bless America. And I'll see you next week, folks. Thank you for tuning into the Field Analysis. Good night and God bless. And here's an unreleased track by The Police. This is an instrumental that they made. that never got released until it was on YouTube. So here's a track from the police on my way out, and you guys enjoy this. Eric, you'll like it. This is from the Ghost in the Machine demos. Anyway, folks, God bless and good night. Oh, actually. Nope, I can't find it, so I guess I'll just have to play the regular outro. Alright, good night, folks. See you next week.